And we're live.
Welcome back to Screencast, everyone. My name is Nick Scarpino, and I will be taking you through this movie, television, and streaming journey today. Alongside me, we have the movie bros herself, Joey Noel.
What's up, everybody? Nick, I
And
thought of you this morning.
Oh, look at
Fresh
you.
out
You
of
know
the fridge.
There you go.
Joey,
Coke
it's like,
brothers.
well, I guess it's noon.
That's a bad thing to say. Coke friends. We'll say Coke friends, not Coke brothers. Coke brothers are
That's a whole different
ball of wax that we probably shouldn't compare ourselves to. And of course, producing the show today and co-hosting and anchoring is the big dog, Kevin Coelho.
Oh.
There it is. Of course, we love you all out there, and thank you so much for your continued support. And we want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon producers for this month: Mohammed or Momo Squared, Blackjack, Razak, Al the Predator Tribesman, and Kono the Barbarian is what we're calling him now. That's a new thing.
That's a good one. That's a
That's
good
one. Now, I don't know who, Andy said that someone from the chat the other day or somewhere from the community gave us that. So I can't take credit for that, but I will.
I remember who it was,
Andy got it from someone, so we'll give credit to that person, but I will take credit for any idea that Andy comes up with. Are we clear on this? Yeah, so if it originates in Andy, in other words, it's
basically
it's
you
mine.
is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Got it.
I'm just taking it.
Can we take a moment to shout out how cool Joey's emote is? I love it so much.
Oh, thank you.
It's the one that.
Wait, is there? Are you talking about in the chat?
Yeah, in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, let me
It's
bring
from
this
the
up.
Pokemon Snap video that Tim and I did. It was the thumbnail one. I just look very excited.
Throw them up in the chat. So
I like the juxtaposition between this one and then the one of Jen, where it's like same thing, but just very different emotions coming out.
Well, Jen's is facing the other way.
There's concern in Jen.
And it's Jen's is more like, oh no, like did that dog just fall down? You know, like when you see a kid fall down, you're like, he's gonna be okay.
Oh my God.
There's that one moment where you're like,
like is that kid dead?
Is that kid dead? Did the kid
hit
die?
His head? We need to go to the hospital.
Exactly. That's like, oh no, yours is like a movie that I like just came out and I'm excited about it.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel.
That's
like where it is.
King of Staten Island.
Exactly, which we'll be talking about later, Kevin. Good segue. Of course, this is the kind of funny Screencast where we get together every week and we talk about all the movie news and a bunch of movies we've been watching. And we're now doing a new thing called the Nick List, where every week we go through a few movies that you guys suggest or something that we've been watching in our personal lives and want to bring to your attention, whether they be good, moderately good, or just abominations. And I can't wait to see.
Good. I like that a lot.
I can't wait to see where Color Out of Space lands on everyone's
I'm very curious
list.
to have this conversation about that.
Me too, and The Vast of Night for that matter, because The Vast of Night is a movie that I've seen a lot of really good feedback on, and I will say right now I'd like to be swayed into the positive on this one because I'm not digging this movie right now.
I'm not either.
Don't understand.
Should we just start with Nicholas?
No. This is Joey. Good podcasts. Seed it out, but then you make everyone wait through the movie news. And then we get to that in a second. Of course, just a couple housekeeping items. We have a great online merchandise store at kindoffunny.com/store where you can check out our new stuff like the PS I Love You shirt. And of course, our Pride shirt is still on sale. It is Pride Month. And we love celebrating that. We have an awesome shirt that was designed by Andy and is one of my favorite things to wear because it looks really cool on camera. Am I wearing it today? No, but I was wearing it yesterday or 2 days ago. So I swear to God, I wear it all the time. And it's one of my wife's favorite shirts. I don't know if you guys know that or not. Little known piece of trivia. She loves that one. Also, this show is brought to you by our sponsor today, the Undies, but we will get to that later. First news story I thought was really cool, Joey. I think you dropped this in the Slack channel, or maybe Kevin did, but Fornite is doing a movie night, and which is cool. They're showing 3 Christopher Nolan classics over the course of the next few days. Let me read this story. This comes from, if you guys want to read the full story, it's over on GameSpot. But as many of Fortnite's entertainment-centric events, this will take place in Fortnite Party Royale, the special playlist where combat is disabled. It's too bad it'd be fun. Depending on where you live, you'll see one of 3 different Nolan films: Inception, Batman Begins, or The Prestige. Can't recommend those are all great movies. Can't recommend those enough. Those in the United States will be able to see Inception at 3 different times over the course of the day. Let's see, 8 a.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m., and then 11:55 p.m.
This is tomorrow, correct?
Sorry, I don't think I copied that paragraph. Let me bring up the full article. Hot on the heels of announcing Fortnite's next concert event, Epic Games is preparing for something else that strays outside of the confines of what you'd expect from the Battle Royale game or any game. This Friday, June 26th, you'll be able to jump in the game to watch the full Christopher Nolan movies as part of Fortnite Movie Night. And again, that schedule for anyone in the United States is Inception's happening tomorrow, 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. So 5 a.m. PT, 5 p.m. PT, and then 8:55 p.m. Pacific time. And you guys can do the math on those because Eastern time still scares me. I don't understand it. I never will. I know it's just 3 hours, but sometimes then there's Scottsdale time. I don't understand. And then of course
time. That's the thing.
That's the
Is that because Arizona doesn't do
daylight savings?
That's it. That's the
no. It's just because there's a bunch of old people that move slower. The Prestige.
Quick question, Joey. Do you know anything about how this works? Like, how do I watch this movie? You're always on top of stuff.
So, I mean, I don't know because I haven't done this yet. But you know how, like, when you choose all the different, like, you can play solos, you can play duos, you can play whatever.
One of them is just watch
You
a
can
movie?
play creative. I think that one of them is, I forget what the exact phrasing Nick said. It's not, is it Party Royale, maybe?
It's called Party Royale, yeah. So you go in, it's just like a giant battle royale, but there's no fighting at all. You just walk around. And if you guys want to check it out, I mean, they've done concert events. I think Travis Scott did one where people go and it feels like you're at a concert in the game and you're watching it on stage and there's stuff going on. It's really, really, I mean, it looks cool, honestly. And the only disappointing thing about this for me is that A, I still don't understand how Fortnite works, and B, I can't watch Inception because I'm waiting for Tim to tell us when we're going to do Christopher Nolan in review. And so every weekend, my wife, we have it queued up on Netflix. It's on Netflix. And my wife goes, hey, you want to watch Inception? And I'm like, oh, and she does it now just to screw with me because she knows that I can't watch it. So we see it. She's like, you want to watch Inception? I was like, damn it, T. You know that I cannot watch this movie. I know. She likes to turn the screws. But for anyone who is a Fortnite fan or haven't seen any of these movies, I don't know that necessarily this is the way you should potentially watch it the first time, especially Inception, because Inception is kind of a movie you have to pay attention to. But it's really, really, really cool that they're doing this. And it's kind of a fun thing, especially if you're still sheltered in place. I think it's cool.
I'm excited. I do want to jump in just to see what it looks like and what the format is and stuff. Because I think it's a cool idea. I still think that Nolan is a weird tie-in that they've done because they also premiered the Tenet trailer in Fortnite, and I don't really. That's a weird mashup for me personally, but
I don't know. I mean, you know,
it's a cool test bed, I guess.
I think it's cool that they're doing weird stuff like that. I mean, Tenet is a movie that obviously I don't know too much about, but it plays with a lot of crazy sci-fi stuff. So hey, why not have a crazy premiere for one of the trailers? It makes sense. And Christopher Nolan is definitely one of those guys that's not afraid to confuse the shit out of his audience. So, you know, kudos to you, Chris Tenet, because Inception, there's like a dream within a dream, and there's a totem, and you spin it, and if it's I don't know.
They go multiple layers deep.
They go deep.
While they're in the dream, they go into another dream.
If by the way, if you went that many layers into my deep psyche, you'd find a sad little boy eating a box of donuts. That's what you'd have, just in a room by himself, eating a box of donuts, just waiting to be yelled at. That's the reality of the situation.
So I know. You went from like I want to make fun of you
to
like
it was funny.
That's so sad. I hope he gets full one day. You know.
It's never been enough. It'll never fill the void. Next up on the news stories, there's a new Scream movie in the works. You guys hear about this? Scream 5. Starring David Arquette, is going to be, Spyglass Media Group and Paramount Pictures have joined forces to co-produce and relaunch the Scream franchise. Co-produce the relaunch of Scream. Sources tell Variety. This is from Variety.com, by the way. The latest installment, in which David Arquette is set to reprise his role as Deputy Dewey, will be directed by Ready or Not filmmakers Matt Bentinelli Olpin and Tyler Gillette. And this is targeted for a release in 2021. Did you guys see Ready or Not?
I did.
What'd you think?
Kevin did too. I think
you guys did. I think you guys saw
Ready or Not was the
board game one.
Yeah,
the girl got
married. Where the family she gets married. Oh, I really liked Ready or Not.
Yeah,
I'm gonna use this as a segue to nominate Ready or Not as a Nicholas movie because I don't think enough people watched it. And Atticus Finch in the chat says it's on HBO right now.
It is on HBO, and I started watching it the other day. And I got something interrupted me, so I didn't go back to it. So I'm excited for this. I'm down for it. Kevin, what say ye? What say ye? Okay, Kevin, for audio listeners, Kevin gave a nod, and that is his nod of approval.
Sorry, Paula is like
no. I'm just teasing
on the other thing, so I might have to move it a little bit.
Yeah, do you think? Let's see. So Ready or Not, first movie.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for more Scream. I like the Scream movies. I think it's a fun franchise.
Yeah.
Will we convince Tim to do Scream in review when we finally get to do a horror series? That would be dope.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Here's the thing. I wasn't Scream 4 well received. I understand that Scream 3 wasn't well received, but
I remember Scream 2 and Scream 3 being not memorable. Scream 4, I'm going to look up the synopsis right now. It's been years since the Ghostface Killer cut a deadly path through the town of Woodsboro. In order to get over the trauma of these horrific events, Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, reprising the role, has written a self-help book. She returns to Woodsboro for her book tour and reconnects with. Yeah, so I do remember this. I remember liking this. I don't remember I don't remember specifics about it because all this. I remember at one point, Scream 2 had Lori Loughlin in it, and I think Timothy Oliphant is in one of these. At one point, they go to college. It was like Saved by the Bell the later years.
Is he not
where they
in
go
the
to college?
First one? I
maybe he was. Maybe was he the killer in the first one? Maybe he was.
Patrick Dempsey's in the third one. Like the third one is where I feel like it gets kind of crazy.
Yeah, the third one gets because I remember now.
The third one's where they're making the movie about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But the second one, I remember not being terrible, and I remember obviously the first one being really good. The second one is where Seth Green's character gets pulled into a car and dies, right?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember Seth Green being these at all. But Seth Green's one of those actors that's just been around. He's been everything.
One.
Yeah.
Second one's the college one. Honestly,
that's one where
I kind of like them all. I know that they all have varying degrees of like whether or not they're good or bad, but as a series, I think they're really fun.
I'll put it this way: I've never walked out of a Scream movie being like, "Well, that wasn't what I expected." They're all. The first one obviously is a very, very, very cleverly written, self-aware horror movie. The second one is basically a rehashing of the first one, with different killers that have different motivations. Don't remember the third one that much. I know that Patrick Dempsey played a cop in it, I think. And the fourth one I remember liking because it was like her coming back to the town and doing the original setting. It's kind of similar in my brain, and chat, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but like when kind of had a vibe of the new Halloween where the same character comes back, reflects on what the events that happened, and then they happen again kind of thing. So, man, I'm down for it. And shout out to David Arquette and Deputy Dewey, man. Why not? Let's go back once more into the fray. I would have. I don't think David Arquette's got that much going on right now.
So that I understand. Who would have thought that Scary Movie would have wanted David Arquette to come back instead of like just doing a full reboot or something?
You Scream, not Scary Movie. Scary Movie did not have David Arquette. It had a David Arquette-like character. That
I have the chat up and they're all talking about Scary Movie.
Scary movies that's a whole other ball of wax. If we ever wanted to do Scary Movie, I would be down to do those franchises because I think I watched the first one like 6 months ago and I was like, oh my god, this is insane. How did they make these movies back then?
But they're good, right? Like, well, I mean, the first one's good. I feel like the third one is where also Scary Movie jumps the ship, and things get really kooky.
One of them is a knockoff on The Village, right? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. We're off the beaten path.
5 of those, yeah.
We are off the beaten path. Anyway, very excited for that, of course. We'll see if theaters are opening by 2021. I'm sure they will be, but hopefully this movie actually comes out. If not, hey, man, I'll watch it on my couch, on the sanctity of my couch, like I watched Color Out of Space, and thank God, because if I watched that movie in theaters, I'd have been like, I feel like I can't get away from it. Another reboot news. I guess that was kind of a relaunch, but this one is a reboot. Apparently, this comes from Variety as well. There is a Twister reboot in pictures. In production, pre-production. Universal Pictures is looking to reboot the classic tentpole Twister and looks to have found a director to weather the storm. I like when writers do that. It's like, you got a journalism degree and you wrote that dumb pun. Good for you. Sources tell Variety that Universal Pictures is developing a reboot of the 1996 blockbuster and is in negotiations with Top Gun Maverick director Joseph Kosinski. Frank Marshall will produce the pick, and the studio is currently looking for some writers to pen the script. I say let Gary Whitta write that, and I'll watch the hell out of this movie because Joe Kosinski is, I think, a very competent and good director.
I say we make Anthony Rapp a much bigger part in this version. You know what I mean?
Was he in the first one?
Yeah, right? Because he was talking about being in the car, the van that they like recorded that over and over again.
He's like part of the crew with like.
Oh, he's part of Carrie Elway. Is he part of Carrie Elway's crew? Yeah.
Oh man,
I think they all died. I think they all died in that movie.
Don't drive into tornadoes.
There's no way that Twister 2 is going to be anywhere near as good as Twisters because it's ridiculous that Twister the movie is as good as it is, and there's no way to recapture that magic. You have Bill Paxton, who's not around anymore, so
but it is as good as we remember it, right?
What's his name? Gosh,
Philip Seymour Hoffman, not around anymore, unfortunately.
Not around anymore.
You got the guy that played Cameron in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's in it, I think, as well.
He is.
Jamie Gertz is in it. She's phenomenal. God bless her.
You got Helen Hunt.
Helen Hunt. Also, did you guys ever watch Mad About You?
Yeah.
Love that show.
Paul Reiser.
Her and Paul Reiser. Great chemistry.
But there's just like it was such like a weird amalgamation of story beats and actors and like all of these things that made it really fun. And I think without a lot of those key elements, the main one being Bill Paxton, I think it's going to be really hard to have it live up to Twister.
Oh, I mean, for sure. It's one of those things that I think my wife pointed it out. She was like, "This is a bad movie. This is not a good movie." But it's fun.
Agree.
I
think it's a good movie.
Well, okay, so it's a really campy, cheesy movie,
which I love.
Elevated by the fact that you've got a great cast in it that's all ready to go on the roller coaster ride. And so to me, it's one of the I just watched it maybe 2 months ago because it's been on TV. It's been playing on TV a lot, actually.
It's one of those classic ones that's like always on TNT or something like that.
Exactly. And it's perfect where you're like, you jump in, you're like, I don't care where I'm at in this movie. I know at some point all we're gonna do is see some twisters. And my favorite part is when he's like, cow, and then someone goes, that's another cow, and then someone goes, no, I think it's the same cow. Because Kevin goes around. And again, shout out to Joseph Kosinski. If I'm not mistaken, I think he did Oblivion and Tron, which I really liked Oblivion, and Tron. Cool. I really liked the visuals and the music from it. So he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. So we'll see what he does. Hopefully he can capture the camp that was Twister. Because if they decide to play that one straight, we'll see. I don't think that would be the good direction for it. But nobody's paying me for anything.
Who would you cast in the Twister reboot?
Oh, and the Twister. I mean, it has to be someone that's going to have fun. It depends. Are we doing Twister like this is the gritty Twister that really is the hardcore reality of like natural disasters? Or are we trying to make another campy, silly, actiony, like Geostorm podcast style movie?
I feel like they're going to go gritty reality stuff, right? Because like Geostorm wasn't like fun and campy, right? Not that any of us have seen it. Oh,
I saw Geostorm, and it was bonkers. So like, if it had that vibe, I'd be okay with it. It very much has a Twister vibe to it, where it's like The Core, or it's like The Day After Tomorrow, where they're just like survive, like these like monster. What's the movie I'm looking for? Like disaster movies are just. They have a basic camp to them because there's no way you could possibly be like dodging Twisters and then going back in and then surviving these things over and over again. But if I were going to cast this movie, I would. Oh man, who would I put in this thing?
Because you have to have somebody that's like can do the like weird actiony pseudo action kind of pieces.
Yeah.
But also has some good banter. I assume they bring back Helen Hunt. I don't know how you do a second Twister and not have Helen Hunt in it.
I mean, you absolutely have Helen Hunt as a person that like they go.
Do you think that she becomes Aunt Meg?
Yeah, I would assume so. Or she's a mentor character for the new Twisters people.
Yeah. Joey, when is the last time you watched this movie? Because
I watch Twister at least once a year.
Kevin, if you're not watching Twister at least once a year, you're not living your life right. That's just how it goes.
I'm looking into where I can
in terms of like old movies that I watch every year, it's like Twister,
it's on Netflix.
Dancing in Jurassic Park. Like,
it is on. Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Wait, what was the second one?
Are we watching Twister next week?
Dancing in Jurassic Park are like ones that I will watch.
I thought you said Dancing with Wolves, and I like because your mic dipped out. I was
like, damn,
it's like, damn, that's deep.
That's a long movie to watch over and over again.
Hey guys, are we watching Twister?
I think we're watching Twister next week for the Nick list.
Sense.
I'm so excited.
What's funny is I just watched it, but I'm gonna watch it again. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
just pay special attention to Jamie Gertz's hair in that movie. It's always so. It's one of those things where I look at it, I'm like, wow. They told you to cut your hair like that for that, huh? It looks like it's straight out of 1983. Yeah, and she's gonna come up again. So remember that name because she's gonna come up again for when we talk. Well, actually, we'll just do it now. Why not? This is our show, guys. We make the rules here. Next news story is a sad one. Joel Schumacher passed away this past week.
This is why everyone was talking about him.
Yes. Joel Schumacher, of course, was a director who did, among other things, St. Elmo's Fire, Falling Down. He did Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. He's famous for putting the guy that put the nipples on the bat suit, which everyone lost their shit about. And when I was a kid watching, I was like, understand why this is a big deal. But of course, he did one of my all-time favorite movies, The Lost Boys, also starring Jamie Gertz, as well as Jason Patric and Kiefer Sutherland, with arguably the coolest Kiefer Sutherland haircut he's ever had in his life. It's the classic Joe. If I'm lying, I'm dying. I might be mistaken on this, but I'm pretty sure this is a movie. It was this because he also did Flatliners, which he had Kiefer Sutherland. But
he did A Time to Kill too, right?
He did do A Time to Kill, which is a phenomenal movie. And he also did the Client, which I think was the Susan Sarandon movie based on John Grisham, where Brad Renfro plays the kid who sees a murderer, and it's really good too. But in more important news, Joe, Kiefer Sutherland's hair in Lost Boys. He has that cool like crew cut up top, mullet in the back, like just mullet. Like it's like a rainfall of happiness going down his back, and it is rainfall of happiness, dark blonde, and it's so cool. It's so cool that when I was a kid, I was like, I will never be cool enough.
You guys can't see it, but I'm showing the kids right now.
You showing the kids? Am I describing it correctly?
Vampires?
Yeah.
So the Lost Boys.
Have you not seen Lost Boys, Joey? Because
I think I've seen it once, like a very long time ago, and I have a terrible memory.
The Lost Boys to me was a classic. It was Joel Schumacher. And it was about a group of young vampires who are kind of running rampant in the town of the fictional town, I think, of Santa Clara. I think it was actually shot in Santa Cruz. They call it Santa Clara, I think. Santa Clara is a town, but I think it was shot. I get confused with where it is.
It was definitely Santa Cruz that was shot in, and that's not the name of the actual city.
That's not the name of the town. Yeah. So it stars Jason Patric, who was in, of course, Speed 2. You'll recognize him from that seminal film. Diane Weiss, I believe, plays their mom. I forget the grandfather's name, but most importantly, it had the two Coreys in it. It was one of the two Coreys films. So it starred Corey Haim and Corey Feldman back at the height of their powers. These are also the two gentlemen that brought us the classic License to Drive, which is I don't recommend watching because I went back and watched that one. I was like, oh, this is a harsh movie to watch. Does not age well. Let's just put it this way. It's got don't worry about that. Anyway, Lost Boys, however, I think does age well. And of course they come to this town and they figure out what's going on. And Jason Patric gets kind of in with the group and is inducted into this. And then his younger brother, played by Corey Haim, has to figure out how to help him and kill all the vampires and save the town. And I have watched this movie multiple times. It is a near and dear classic to me, and I recommend everyone going out and watching it. I don't know if it's available anywhere on streaming because I'm bad at my job and I didn't bother looking it up. But I will submit the Lost Boys as another potential for the Nick list this week. I'm just putting that out there.
I have one that I would like to submit. Also, it doesn't look like the Lost Boys is streaming anywhere, so
okay. Well, we don't have to put that on there. I won't make you guys watch it. But if you're a fan of that, in chat,
I just pulled up his IMDb. He did a lot of really great stuff.
Joel Schumacher did a lot of great movies. Yeah,
I only knew him like really from A Time to Kill and Batman and Robin because I know it's terrible, but I love it anyways. But just looking at his stuff, it's like, shoot, St. Elmo's Fire, which is a banger of a theme song.
He had a career that spanned like 4 decades. So I mean, the guy was directed a lot of stuff, and he came from like the costuming and production design world. So a lot of his movies, specifically like Lost Boys, has just really cool like period correct costumes. I mean, obviously they're period correct because
I feel like they're period exaggerated costumes, like especially all the stuff the Lost Boys are wearing, where it's like leather and chain. It's so dope.
They're in like everything's pop collar. So if you're wearing a leather jacket, you better damn well get ready for your ears to sweat because that collar is going to go up to your ears. It's going to be pop. A lot of denim, lot of jewelry, just a lot of necklaces and I think Alex Winters is in it, the guy that played either Bill or Ted from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And he's got like the cut off shirt. Where it's like he's like, I'm cut the shirt. I'm like, if you're still wearing half a shirt, you're just not cool. You're not cool. So take that other half off. You don't need it. But also it's got a banger soundtrack, and it's got that style from the 80s, Joe. That 80s sort of young adult horror adventure style that every movie these days that's like retro 80s tries to nail, and very few do. So this is definitely one of those that people look back on, like the Duffer Brothers definitely look back on things like this and go, we'll take some inspiration from the Lost Boys, as well as a lot of other fun 80s movies like Goonies and shit like that. So go check that out and watch it if you guys can. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know, and we'll move on from there. Whew, it's been a good one. We've had a good time, everyone. So I do right now want to take a second to tell y'all about our sponsor. Kevin, how do you feel about that? He feels good about it.
I feel good about it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to set up the trend.
You do your thing. Our sponsor this week, of course, is MeUndies. Listen, you've heard us talk about MeUndies a lot. We love MeUndies. We wear MeUndies. They're very, very, very soft, but they're also doing something really, really cool for this Pride Month. It's critical that we take a moment, of course, to recognize and remember the intersectionality between Pride and the racial injustices that we continue to endure today. This month, through their MeUndies Gives initiative, MeUndies continues to take action to achieve their mission of creating a more thoughtful and accepting world by making $50,000 donations to both the It Gets Better Project and Black Lives Matter. They, like MeUndies, are committed to standing up against hate and intolerance and creating a world where hope outshines fear for all people. With MeUndies Gives, simply by shopping MeUndies, you can help them support this cause. I think it's awesome they're doing this. Obviously, we wear MeUndies. The first time I felt a pair of MeUndies, I was like, that's exceptionally soft, and that's the kind of thing that I want around me at all times. And of course, the guys wear them all the time. If Greg were here, I'm sure he would, without asking, show you what pair of fun MeUndies print he's got on right now. But thankfully, he's not here because, let's be honest, we all need a break from that goon. MeUndies has this brilliant thing called an Undies membership, where every month the softest undies ever appear at your doorstep. And who does not want that right now? Because we're all stuck at home. So if you need underwear, what better way to do it than just order it from MeUndies and have it shipped right to your doorstep. The convenience factor is clutch. You never have to leave your house. Oh, and you also get site-wide savings, early access, and free shipping. It's pure joy. That's part of the membership. MeUndies are made of course, that micromodal fabric, an irresistibly soft, sustainable fabric that encases your nether regions in a cloud-like comfort. It's magically made from trees. Another reason to give them a hug. MeUndies are offered in a range of sizes from extra small to 4XL. MeUndies is a great offer for the listeners of this fine show. For any first-time purchasers, you get 15% off and free shipping. You got to give this super softness a try, especially because they have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. To get that 15% off your first order, free shipping, and the 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/morning. That's MeUndies.com/morning. I'll tell you another thing these things are good for, Kev. I've been doing a lot of sitting down, but it's nice to have a little extra softness down there because this IKEA chair that I'm sitting on right now, it's rough. Not a lot of padding. Not a lot of padding. I'm not saying that's a function of MeUndies, but might be a fun side effect. All right, guys, it's Nicholas time. We last
Nicholas
week.
time, huh?
Nicholas time. Yep. Well, what we did last time, we said what we've been watching and then did Nick. Let's watch what we've been watching first.
Okay.
And then we'll do the Nick list. If you guys did your homework last week, we're going to be talking about the King of Staten Island, Color Out of Space, and The Vast of Night. If you haven't done your homework, you have approximately 15 minutes to watch 3 2.5 hour long movies. So start skimming now. Whoever, oh damn it, I should have.
You probably have enough time to read the Wikipedia.
He's too furious in the chat. What's that, Joe?
I said you probably have enough time to read the Wikipedia summaries on all 3 of those movies, and that's about it.
You sure do. Let's kick it off with Kevin. Kevin, what have you been watching this week?
So, I watched all the stuff that we talked about, but I also watched. Well, I didn't watch it fully, but Atticus Finch. No, that's
Artemis Fowl.
Artemis Fowl. That's it.
There you go. I was like, what? You watched the Ayn Rand movie?
No. Sorry. And I didn't watch the whole movie. I fell asleep a third in, and
so Artemis Fowl is the Disney franchise that was supposed to be huge for them, right? And then of course got unfortunately derailed by coronavirus. But this is sort of like Harry Potter, but if they were the whole family were thieves instead of wizards.
Kind of.
And this is
so I
which
saw
is the one about Greek gods. Is that Percy Jackson?
Yeah,
that's Percy Jackson and the lightning.
The first one's not terrible. It's not great though. So I watched this because I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh, this movie is absolute trash," and I was like, "Well, let me see how trashy it is." Now, I didn't think it was trash. I thought it was just very clearly a kids movie, and it not like a kids movie that translated to an adult. So watching it, I was like, "Oh, this is just a little kids movie," and I fell asleep. So, didn't finish it. Did not go back to it. It's just, it's not worth it, unfortunately.
Important correction in the chat. Cactus Finch says Atticus Finch is the dad in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes,
he's not in it. Yeah, I thought he was the main character from Fountainhead. What was chat? Let me know what the main character from Fountainhead's name is.
Did he have
something like that?
Oh wait, no. I'm thinking
we don't have a You're Wrong section, but evidently last week we could have really used it.
What?
What? Got a couple things wrong with that old Zack Snyder trailer. Hey, we'll get the next one better. We're all trying to be better at our jobs here. Kevin, what else have you been watching?
I think for the most part that's been it. Because we picked this Nick's list thing I really like, but it does.
It takes time.
It takes a lot of time. Yeah, because
should we pare it down to 2 and not 3?
3 is a lot.
Well,
but it's
3
fun.
Is a lot. Yeah, it is fun. That's the thing. Like, I don't regret. Okay, let's not.
I think the key is finding a movie that at least. Say, here's what I've been thinking in my brain. How do we find 3 options, one of which all of us have already seen, so that you don't have to watch it again? For instance, I don't have to watch Twister again.
Any given person only has to watch.
But here's the reality. You're gonna watch Twister again, aren't you?
Okay, I'm gonna watch Twister again.
There you go. Yeah.
That was a pop quiz that you just passed, buddy.
But here's the thing: Nick can have Twister as the last option, so he can watch it whenever he feels like he doesn't feel pressure to finish the whole thing. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm down to keep it at 3 if you guys are, but if it, honestly, if it starts getting too much, we can pare it down. And if you guys can't finish a movie, or this is the other thing I've been thinking of: do we need to finish terrible movies? Is there a way to bail out of Nicholas?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. You can.
When you watch a movie, you're like, because I'll be honest with you, we'll get to it in a second, but fuck it, let's talk about it now. I almost stopped watching The Vast of Night 3 times.
Really?
Because I kept falling asleep.
It wasn't even on the Nick list when I watched it, and I was like, do I want to keep watching this? I don't know that I don't think I do, but then I did because I wanted to see if the end brought it back, and it wasn't my favorite, but I also don't like sci-fi, so I don't think it's like my kind of movie.
See, it's interesting. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. Like, there was one aspect in it that I was like, why are you doing it? The whole like, oh, hey, this is a TV show thing. That pissed me off. Or it was just like, why are you doing this? Like,
it's a little too meta.
Yeah, exactly. In a way that like I feel like it didn't need to. But I guess that works well with the ending in the sense of like, well, it's a TV show and you kind of decide what you want, But
I think it's so. First off, I applaud the director and the cast for the style of this movie.
It's really dope.
And I can understand why, if you're super into artistic indie films, you would love this. I was like, there was a moment where I'm like, I think I'm digging this, but then some of the artistic direction, specifically where they were just like, we're going to let this thing dip into black for 5 minutes while you listen to this guy.
The audio?
Then I did this thing. Mm-hmm. I had to turn the subtitles on first of all because I couldn't understand what the main character was saying for the first 15 minutes of this movie because he was speaking through a cigarette, and I was like, "You're talking too fast. I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about." By about halfway through, I'm like, I'm intrigued enough, and I respect the style enough of this director to pay him the respect, of course, of me finishing the movie. So I finished it, and I'm glad I watched it. I think it's worth a watch if you really, really, really like stylized indie movie, like sci-fi indie movies that pay homage to the Twilight Zone and to those like old radio shows, like War of the Worlds radio shows of the past, which I think they drew a lot of reference from that, from what I read in the IMDb trivia, because I think even the radio station was called like WOWW or something like that, War of the Worlds. Anyway, maybe I took that wrong. But WOTHW, War of the Worlds, I think is what the radio station was called. Anyway, the concept is cool, and I like the vibe he was going for. But I think the way they shot it, like we didn't need to spend that much time at the basketball court, and I think they put a lot of budget into that. What I would have loved to have seen was a little bit more coverage of the scenes where they were in their respective settings, where the actress was in the radio, the switch, telephone switch box place, and then the guy was in the radio station, because those were cool set pieces that I wanted to see more of, and I wanted to see them roaming around the town more in this like sort of like desolate area. I think they nailed that vibe. But I just can't help thinking that this would have been way cooler if it was a 45-minute episode of Black Mirror and not an hour and a half of giving me a story with a one shot where I start to be like, what are we talking? And then I literally, it's like, you know what it reminds me of? You ever seen G.I. Jane? There's a part in G.I. Jane where they work. No. There's a part where they overwork them, and then they put them in this dimly lit classroom with like water dripping, and he starts playing classical music, and then he asks them to write like a 2,000-word essay on like what it means to be in the military, and the whole point of it is to make them fall asleep so that they can scare the shit out of them and then keep driving them further. That's what I kind of felt like was the Vast of Night, where I was like, this thing is making me fall asleep, and then but something scary is gonna fucking happen, and they're gonna get me with it, and I will not be gotten, Kevin.
It's so interesting because that first scene that we see where that we follow these two, this one character, and then it introduces a second character, and like he is talking really fast, and he's got a cigarette in his mouth the whole time. It just, I don't know, I really like that scene. That something about like the way it was shot, the movement of it, the like how quick all the interactions were, and it was like, oh hey, Ted says you need to come and help, but I'm doing something, I can't come and help. All right, let's go. And then like they would go into it and be like, no, I didn't need him. I wanted the other kid that worked at the thing. He's like, no, he works at the thing, and it seemed so like real, you know?
Real. I mean, I and again, I respect the style. It just was not, unfortunately, for me. It didn't grab me like I wanted it to. I wanted to be drawn into this world of where something crazy is happening in a small town. Look at you guys say, Nick, there's something crazy that's sci-fi happening in a small town, and these two like teenager or young adult kids have to figure this out. I'm like, I am in. That is my favorite genre of film. Let's go. But my issue with this was I was like, why? I hate when movies are when I'm sitting in movies and going, what is the point of this scene other than to lull me into it's similar to like my criticism of the Lord of the Rings with the trees, where I'm like, I get why you're doing this, but I don't like any scenes that were purposely put in here to like troll the audience and make me feel antsy so that you can hit me with something later. I just feel like it's a waste of screen time. And there's multiple moments in this where that happens, where she's like answering the phone and we're getting this back. It's almost similar like backstory letters in like Last of Us, where I'm like, why do I have to read these? And I know that if I read them, it might make it deeper. But like, yeah, sometimes I feel like
those moments where she's dealing with phone calls and trying to get people back, it does such a good job of like not building tension, but like maybe escalating just a little bit more of that uncomfortable feeling of like, what exactly is happening and how do you deal with not having modern technology to like. She can't just call the girl's cell phone and be like, "Hey, what's going on? Why aren't you answering?"
But I think it was like that whole shot, which was I know the actor did a good job, but the whole shot, she's answering these calls. I'm having a hard time understanding what people are saying. So obviously I have to read the subtitles because the audio pass on this was not very good, and it's happening so fast. I think the idea was supposed to be like, "Hey, crazy shit's happening all over town, and we only have like 10 actors, so let's try to make it look like the whole town's at this thing, but then these people are really secluded." But I think he could have achieved that same thing with like 2 phone calls or 1 phone call and then not being able to raise anyone else on the switchboard. But again, I think overall, that's the director's style. I think it works for him. I think a lot of people vibe with this, and I respect it. I was very bored with this movie, and I was like, I want to finish this because I want to see where it goes. And by the ending, I'm like, I'm glad I watched it. It didn't work for me though, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like I was also I had seen a lot of people on my timeline really hyping this up. So I think I went in with like higher expectations than I should have, which is always a hard thing to manage.
Yeah.
But yeah, like to what Kevin was saying of like that in that first scene of the movie where they're going through the gym and trying to figure out all this stuff is so good. And then I feel like pretty
but
quickly
they keep walking and they keep walking and they keep talking. And I was like, okay, well,
essentially like once they split, I feel like the pacing of it changes and it's like it just slows down really, really fast. I'm like, oh, this feels different.
I don't think they did a good job explaining that like she was leaving the event and he was going to drop her off at her job.
They did, because I thought she was working for the high school band. I was like, is she supposed to leave this thing?
Yeah.
And I guess she did that. And then they have all this stuff about the tape recorder. And I'm like, this is going to play a pivotal role in this because we've spent so much time talking about this tape recorder and we're interviewing people and all of this is going to go somewhere. And it just at the end, the only thing that's left over is the tape recorder. So my assumption is that someone's going to find this maybe and be able to recreate the story. I don't know what again, I fell asleep. I started dazing in and out of consciousness on this one because, again, it lulled me into this. So I'm sure there's a much deeper meaning in this that is completely eluding me. But I just, for me, I like a more classic Hollywood telling of stories like that where the formatting is not so bloated up front. And I just felt like I was getting anxiety with this scene. I was like, can we move on to whatever the next thing is going to be?
I
can
feel
we
like
just get out of this?
The beginning of it is the total opposite of the end of it, where there is the last 5 minutes are silent and them kind of walking around and that. I like that juxtaposition where it's it goes from such a these people know exactly what they're doing, everything's going makes sense to them to fucking nothing. This is so surreal and out of their world of what is happening that they're scared and about to panic, and then they see this and this big reveal of oh shit, no, this is exactly what everyone is saying.
And all that stuff was cool. Yeah, and last 15 minutes of the movie worked for me, and I think the reason it worked was because they were showing us, not telling us. Whereas the other hour and a half of the movie is literally 2 to 3 characters, single shot, telling you what you're supposed to be thinking about right now, telling you what they saw. And that's fine if it's one character giving context to the story. But like, I keep thinking to myself, okay, are we going to fucking, at some point, this guy's going to be like, it was 1928. I was working here. And then we're going to go and see this. Because that's what you would normally do if you had more budget.
Type thing instead
of
just
that's what, because it's much more interesting when you're watching a motion picture to have someone to show you that. Now, I get that he was like, hey, we want to make this like a radio show where we're literally dipping into darkness and you're going to hear that. But it's very, very hard for a person with zero patience to watch a radio show. And I understand that's what he was trying to go for. I just don't think that maybe I'm the problem.
No, but I mean, you and Joey both didn't like it.
Unsettling, yeah.
It is interesting because when it dips to black, I thought that was such a cool thing where it's like it is like you were listening to it on the radio. You're just now kind of taking everything this guy says, and I thought what he was saying was an interesting story.
So, it was, and that's cool. And I mean, through that context, I get it. I guess it just didn't occur to me as I was watching it. Of course, looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. It's cool that he did that. But I guess for me in that moment, I was bored shitless.
I also think that there is a little bit of a duality with the fact that like we couldn't see anything, and the fact that he felt he was unseen. The reason why he was chosen was no one would listen to him, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So
because the color was good.
Yeah.
So, exactly. I mean, yeah, absolutely. That was cool. All that stuff again, metaphorically played in well, but for a movie that's 20 minutes of someone talking at me, I'm like, sorry, continue, Kev.
I was just saying that like one more layer to that is also like he talks to this kid on the radio because he can't see him on the phone, you know what I mean? So he'd be more likely to believe him if it was
just
like
listen to his words.
Yeah.
And that stuff works for me. I think that's super cool. It's just again, this is just not a movie for me, but this does not make this a bad movie. Let's put it that way. I can understand if like I saw Sean Finnegan tweeting about it and I was like, totally understand why he'd vibe with this. I think this is right up his alley. And I think the director and the production team with what budget they have deserve kudos for this. It's just a little too artistic for me and a little too deep for the small pond that is me. You know, where do we want to put Vast of Night on the Nick list? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the Nick list is as follows. It's a 3-tiered system. Okay, we're not doing 4.5 stars. We're not doing it at 100%. Is there like a 0.5? No, 3. Is it good, bad, or bad? That's what we're deciding here. Joey, where do you want to put this?
This is where it gets hard because am I supposed to be evaluating it as like objectively as possible?
I feel like this is just
personal opinion.
Personal opinion, right?
That's a question. Opinion. That is a question because if I'm evaluating this from its artistic merit, I put it at good. If I'm evaluating this from how much I liked it, I put it at bad. Because I just didn't like that. I was like, I want to stop watching this movie right now.
I think that should then fall under the bad category, where it's like this is not a movie that you guys will recommend to the next person that walks up to you. You know what I mean? If someone right now
I guess
comes
that's
up,
the good basis of it. In terms of recommendation, or would you watch it again, or something like that? Yeah, I would put it in bad.
You're gonna put it in bad. I mean, I think I have to put this in bad also. This movie just did not work for me.
I mean, this is clearly going in the bad category, but I would put it in the good-bad category, where there were a lot of aspects that I liked. There were some things like this is all a TV show aspect that I was like, what is? I don't like this. This is trying too hard.
Yeah.
Petey pop off in the chat says, I thought there was also bad. No, Petey. There's 3 tiers. There's
3.
Good, bad.
Could we flip it?
If we said bad, good.
No, I think sometimes the middle one switches the words.
Yeah,
around.
I was gonna say,
that one switches.
But it's still in the same category. You know what I mean? It's still getting a score of 2 stars.
And again, the reason if you were like Nick, you don't have good taste in movies, The Vast Night is too artistic for you, you're 100% spot on. I just watched this movie for 5 minutes and was like, I want to turn this off, and to me that is bad, unfortunately. But I definitely recommend watching it if you like artistic movies, and Kevin's spot on. This movie is very deep and very cool. It just, man, I hope I never have to watch it again. Next up.
Wait, real quick. Actually, I just looked at this list, and apparently I put in a movie here that I forgot I had watched. I also watched Maleficent.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. I was surprised at how much I was okay with it. I'm gonna watch the second one at some point in the next week because that's why we watched the first one so that we can watch Maleficent 2, which is on Disney Plus.
Very cool. Yeah, I actually remember watching Maleficent 1 randomly. It was one of those No one's here. No one's judging me right now. I'm gonna watch Maleficent, and pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed that movie.
What's her name? Ella Fanning.
Elle Fanning.
Elle Fanning. She is phenomenal. I enjoy her and everything she does. When she was The Great was so good. That's all.
The Great was good. I watched like maybe 20 minutes of each episode because I kept popping in, and I was like, "This is crazy," and it's like Clueless. I'm like, "This is really fun to watch."
Yeah. Also, now that I'm thinking about it, what's her face? Man, how do I remember?
Angelina Jolie.
Yes, was really good, and I felt like they did a really good job of like changing that story in a way that was like, oh man, I feel terrible for Angelina Jolie's character, but at the same time, oh, now she went too far, and it's like, oh, now she's been redeemed. Oh no, she can't take it back. What? Yeah, the story did a good job of grabbing my attention and working with a story that I already knew.
Yeah, I agree. In the chat, Shifty415 says it needs to be 4 tiers. No, Shifty, you're getting too complex. This is what I'm saying. This is the problem. Well, yeah, at that point, why don't we just get it 100 and we can just do the minutia? That is not what we're trying to do here. I want people to be at a glance, look at a movie and go, should I watch it? And if so, what experience am I going to get? And if it's bad, you don't watch it. If it's good, that's going to be about anywhere between this is silly and stupid to this was almost good. It just needed a couple pieces changed out here and there. Like for instance, I think Color Out of Space would have been phenomenal if they, for whatever reason, didn't cast Nicolas Cage. That could have pushed that movie back up a couple tiers. Just because he's fucking crazy.
I know.
And then of course, Good is movies that I think everyone should watch. Specifically, I think the last one we named Good was The Hate You Give, and everyone should absolutely watch that movie. Okay, where do we want to? Let's talk about Color Out of Space. What the hell?
Holy shit! I did not like. From the trailers, I had no idea what to expect, and I was like, "Oh, this just looks like it's gonna be a crazy movie. Let's see it." And then, like, as it's going on, it was like, "Oh, are they really gonna make this decision? Like, what are they like? Tomorrow, surely they're gonna wake up and the mom and fucking kid are gonna be separated, right? No,
nope.
They just commit to that.
It is obviously it's worth noting that I did not know too much about this movie other than having seen a trailer for it about maybe a year or two ago before it was going to be released, which I assume was a limited release, if any release. A couple things worth noting. This is from the guy that did a movie called The Island of Dr. Moreau. Now, I never recommend watching that movie. It is a massive, massive, massive piece of shit starring Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando. But I do recommend watching the documentary someone made about that movie because the shit that went down on set is, you can't write it. It is a truth is stranger than fiction moment. Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer hated each other. Val Kilmer was such an asshole that he literally wouldn't come out of his trailer until Marlon Brando came out of his trailer. And then Marlon Brando figured that out and was like, I'm not coming out. And so the director went crazy, got kicked off the movie, and then, and I'm not making this up, got the costume department to dress him up as one of the monsters on the island so that he could see what was going on in the movie and be on set for it. And then someone accused him of sabotaging the movie. You cannot make this shit up. It is crazy. Chat, let me know what the name of that documentary is called, because if you haven't watched it, it is one of the reasons if you ever wonder why a movie was so bad, watch that, because it has everything to do with how shitty people can be to each other, egos, lack of budget, poor decisions. By the way, one of my favorite things that happened is the director of photography. So Joe, they need this to look like a deserted island, right?
Yeah.
The director, they find this island. The director of photography is like, oh, this is cool. Look at this space right here. That's like 10 minutes away from where all the hotels are. Like we could literally drive 10 minutes away and have it look like they're in the middle of a deserted island in the South Pacific, right? And the director's like, yeah, but we can't see the mountain in the background. And the cinematographer's like, yeah, but if we see the mountain in the back, he's like, well, I want to see the mountain in the background because it gives context to where everyone is the entire time. And the cinematographer's like, we don't need that. What we need is to be able to get our actors to set on time. And so the director's like, no, I want to shoot on the other side of the island, which is like 3 hours away. And it just snowballed down from there. It was just bad choice after bad choice. He didn't want Val Kilmer to be in the movie, and Val Kilmer got in the movie, and then they were just assholes.
Nick, is it Lost Soul?
Yes.
The doomed journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau?
Yep.
Thank you. Yep. I don't know Matt in the chat for that one.
Thank you, Matt. Of course, Richard Stanley.
I Googled it. What do you mean?
Well, it's been in the chat for like 3 minutes.
Well, like, take your thank you back. Give it to me. I Googled it.
Oh, nice. By the way, sorry. Just breaking news right now from Cassandra Marvel in the chat says, Nick, Psych 2, the movie is out July 15th on Peacock. Trailer out now.
Ooh.
We're winning, everyone. We're climbing it back. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's Psych 2.
I might watch this immediately after, because that sounds really cool. Lost Soul, which is available on Prime Video.
It is unbelievable. Like, there are the stories that these people tell. You're like, I can't. That's not like. There's no way that can be true. There's just no way.
I know that sounds just like ridiculous, but
it's completely absurd. And of course, they took a classic book, The Island of Dr. Moreau, and just made it into like a horror fest. It was just fucking crazy. Yeah. Anyway,
but
let's
that
go
also
back to
goes into like crazy. What like that style of like weird deformed monsters that. Right?
Yeah, I never saw his first movie. He did a movie called Hardware, I think, which got him critical acclaim. It was indie. I don't know what it's about. I never saw it, but apparently he wanted to take this in a crazier direction. But when the studio told him, I think what happened was, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't watched the documentary in a while. What happened was he was like, I love the story of Island Dr. Moreau. I have a vision for what this could be. I only need like $2 or $3 million. But the problem was the studio was like, what if we got you Marlon Brando? And he was like, holy shit, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, this was the time when Marlon Brando didn't want to be in movies. He was just doing them for paychecks and just refused to learn his lines. So they had to like put lines on people so we could like read them off their heads and shit. And then they go, but
can you imagine being so famous that they're like, you know what? Don't worry. We're going to write on Ted's head. So you just have to look at him.
Kevin, there's a character in this movie that wasn't written into the movie. Marlon Brando just goes, I want like a person around me of small stature at all times. So write that character in. So they had to find like the world's shortest man and cast it as a character that I don't think was written into the movie. That's how fucking crazy Marlon Brando was, that he thought that was a good idea. And like,
was he trying to get fired or something?
I think he was. I think he was like, they have to pay me no matter what, so I'll just go and get fired, and that'd be fine.
Just be really crazy.
The bigger problem was Val Kilmer, and the way the story goes, if I'm not mistaken, was that once Val Kilmer signed on, they were like, "Oh, we got to give you way more money," and he was like, "I don't want money. I want an actor that I can work with." And they were like, "Well, but it's Val Kilmer," and he was huge back then. Yeah. And like, spoilers, I think this is the movie that derailed Val Kilmer's career. Because up until this point, he had done like The Saint, probably. I think maybe they did The Saint, maybe they did afterward. But he did like The Saint. He was Batman. He was Iceman. He was he was in Real Genius. He was the hot new thing. And then he does this movie. And I remember as a kid going like, "Oh no, I don't know what this is or why, but I never want this to happen. I never want to relive an experience." And this is when you were a kid and you're like, I only can see one movie a week, so I have to sit through this. But if I'd have known I could have walked out of that movie, I'd have walked out of that movie and called my parents to come pick me up, because it was a shitstorm.
I kind of want to watch Hardware now. I like Googled it, and like all the images look really cool.
It's a critical. It's a movie that garnered a lot of acclaim for its time. So I think it's probably worth watching. But it's the missing link in the chat says, sounds like the Firefest documentary. Yes, it's that vibe, except fucking crazy, even crazier in my opinion, because the movie ended up coming out and everyone was like, "What is this? Yeah. What is this movie?" Oh, I digress. Back to Colorado Space. What do we think?
It's a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know what I was expecting, really, because it's the same thing. I got the trailer once, and I think we had just kind of cobbled it together last week of like, oh, I remember seeing that trailer, and this looks crazy. And like, Nicolas Cage has been on a crazy streak. Obviously, this also jumped off from somebody recommending Mandy, and then the Mom and Dad movie was weird as shit.
So important to note, those three movies, if I'm not mistaken, were produced and distributed by the same producers. I think it was XYZ Films. So it's sort of, I think that is their genre, and Nicolas Cage is their go-to guy for that. Chat, let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I know Nicolas for sure Cage they did Mandy.
Went broke, right? That's the reason why we're getting so many Nicolas Cage movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot confirm nor deny, but I'm pretty sure he likes his substances. And no, I'm joking about that. I don't know why, but yeah, I think he's had some money troubles, and he's done some crazy shit.
This movie is fucking weird and absurd, and somehow he stands out as the weirdest part, just because he does this character like it's being influenced by this color that starts talking in a weird way, and for whatever reason that's even more jarring, and not in like it's supposed to be jarring kind of way, you know?
Yeah, the whole thing is just unsettling.
So like this is an example of taking inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft, and
which is a choice.
It's a choice. And to be fair, there's something to be said for Lovecraft, right? I think there's something to be said for that, for his style of storytelling and the horror and the grotesqueness of it all. I'm not gonna discount that or discredit that. But what I think was more telling is I think we've watched two movies that are inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. One was this, and the other one was Underwater.
But this one is directly.
This one is directly based on a short story. So I like when people go, I want to make an homage to Lovecraft and have some Lovecraftian elements in my movie. But man, maybe I don't like when they do a one-to-one recreation of the H.P. Lovecraft short stories, because I think it's a cool story. I just think that they needed to. I just think that their elements were a little off from it. And really, the one thing that was super jarring to me was just Nicolas Cage's performance in this, which started off fine, and then somewhere went to a Valley Girl halfway through. And Donald Trump for a little bit, which I think Kevin said was supposed to be indicative of him recreating his father's attitude toward him.
Right, but we didn't see that. We just heard him kind of complain about his father a couple times.
Right. That's why. So his performance is so erratic in this movie that I feel bad for the actors that he's acting opposite. I think the mother, I think all the kids, I think the rest of the cast was great.
Did you know who the daughter was?
What was she from?
She's the best friend into all the boys.
That's what I recognize her from. Maybe that's why. Yeah, maybe that's why she gets a couple extra notches in my book, because she picks good projects. Aside from this,
I was very impressed by. Was it Tommy Chong? What's his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Tommy Chong. Yeah,
I was very impressed because like he played the same dumb character he always has, and then he has a cool monologue at the end where it's like, this is fucking terrifying.
I'm conflicted on this because I enjoyed this movie. I did. I never want to watch it again. I don't know that I want to recommend it for people, but I think if you're a fan of like really fucked up sci-fi horror, this might be right up your alley. and I think I say that knowing that, like, I think a better example of a movie that does a similar style would be John Carpenter's The Thing. But that movie does a really good job of putting you and building tension and putting you and letting you get to know the characters before they start the monster starts killing them off. This movie I thought was going there, and then Nicolas Cage was so erratic in it that I was really like, what the fuck is put on? But then by the time everything starts going crazy, I'm like, I want to see where this roller coaster goes. And then it finishes, and I'm like, I think I'm worse off for having watched this movie.
Yeah, that's
but
the
maybe
thing.
That's the point of it, right?
And that's exactly what I was gonna say, where it's like, I feel like that's the point. And like, because of that, I want to give it more points. And I don't know. I can't say that I like this movie, but I do think that like people should watch it.
Yes.
Just where it's like when you smell something bad.
It's definitely
like,
entertaining.
Everybody smell this. This smells bad, right? And like, I know it smells bad, but I want someone else to smell it to justify how bad it smells.
I feel like whenever we decide to build out kindoffunny.com to be the premier movie review site, we'll do pull quotes, and that will be Kevin's pull quote for Color Out of Space. It's Perfect. Like when you smell something bad and you want everyone to come smell it because it smells so bad that you want everyone to know how bad it smells. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because there's a sick, twisted joy in indulging in something that's terrible. And then when we all do it together, it makes us all realize how fucked up we are as human beings. And that is what Color Out of Space did for me. That is why I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's good, bad. I'm going to say it's good, bad.
I will second that.
What say you?
So there's layers to this. For me, I think it's especially, so obviously Vast of Night, very sci-fi kind of traditional in that sense. This way more sci-fi horror, which is way more my vibe. So I think I'm predisposed to like this movie more than the other one.
Me too, by the way. I think that's why I immediately vibe with it, because it is much more like a classical sci-fi horror movie.
Yeah, and then that's the thing of like, I was never bored in this movie. I was mostly just like confused of like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what possibly is the end game for this movie?
Did they have alpaca? I never got a good explanation for that. They just said it's the animal of the future.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage was trying to raise alpacas to like milk and be meat for the future. He was gonna try to make that a thing. Like that's why they were living there. I thought because like he
we still don't know
farm.
Why? Like I don't know if that's a weird reason.
Joey, would you believe that when I saw? So here's when I started watching it with Dee, and about 50 minutes, and she's like, "Nope, I'm going to bed. This is not something that I ever need to see." And I got blessed my wife because I stick shit out. I'm like, "Oh no, this is going to be redeemed. We're going to get the ending of this. Going to make it all worth it."
Yeah.
My wife recognizes these things immediately and goes, "No, I don't need this shit in my life." But one of the things that I wish she had seen is there's a part where the son has his arm around the neck of an alpaca and he's petting it, and the alpaca goes like this. And now I want an alpaca, and I have a room back there, guys, that there's nothing in. I just have a dining room where we never put a table, and I think I could put 2 alpaca in there without Dee noticing. Ooh. What say ye?
I think they spit like llamas.
But I think you could. I think you should try anyways.
But they're so fluffy.
Yeah, they're soft. I have an alpaca blanket over there. It's very comfortable.
And I feel like there's one particular dynamic of like towards the end with the mother and the son that is just like that's the thing that stands out to me the most of like, oh my gosh, this smells terrible, but I need somebody else to experience this with me because I can't do this by myself. And that's what it is.
Talking about smelling terrible, that's literally a line that Nick Cage keeps saying. He's like, "Why does that smell?" And I'm like, why is he the only one that smells something bad?
I feel like that's so cool. You know what I mean? Where it's like, for whatever reason, it was affecting him that way. And also, like, Chong knew it was like everything was going to happen. You know?
Yeah. I think also the point for the movie where it turned for me where I was like, what is happening? Is the point where Nicolas Cage is like picking all of the vegetables off of the vine and then he's in the kitchen with the mom just taking bites out of everything and spitting it out. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. But it was entertaining and fun.
I agree. I think it was just shy enough to be entertaining that I'm like, okay, I'll give this one a nudge. I mean, again, another point, Nicolas Cage, if you were to show people 5 scenes from this movie starring Nicolas Cage, in which Nicolas Cage is the main focus of the scene, you could legitimately fool people into thinking you were showing them scenes from 5 different movies because his character is so erratic in this. And I know that's kind of what it's supposed to be, but who's the daughter? Who's the actress to play the daughter? Do we know her?
Her name's Madeline something, I think.
She does a great job of showing the slow progression into madness that the water. Madeline Arthur does a great job of starting off in one place and then showing us that fucked up degrading that this thing is having on and the effect they're having on it to the point where at the end when everything goes down, you're like, this is believable. Nick Cage does not know how to do that. And I think it's just indicative of them being like, maybe they just need to shoot every Nick Cage movie from start to finish in a linear fashion. Because I feel like maybe they shot the scene with the tomatoes first, and he was like, I'm gonna go crazy. And then Richard Stanley pulled him aside and was like, can you just take it down like 50% for the next scene? And then they shot the dinner scene where he was lovely. And then the next scene he was like, now ramp it back up. And he was like, I'm gonna play a Valley Girl. It was fucking weird. It was weird. But Joe, where do you want to rank this on the Nick list?
I think because it was I think it's definitely bad, but I think it's fun bad. Okay. So that's why I would put it in good bad.
All right, there it is. Unanimous decision. Good.
Man, we're gonna get roasted for putting The Vast of Night in bad and putting this in good bad.
Hey, dude, it's taste, man. It's
personal. Not like you guys. Everybody that's watching or listening to this knows where we fall on.
No, but like the important thing is, if you don't think we're right, watch the movie and then keep the opinion to yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Your opinion.
You can write us a short rebuttal. If you want to write into the show.
That's a great idea, Joey. That's a great idea. If you want to write into the show, go over to patreon.com/kindoffunny. You have to pay to play. You back us at the $5 tier, and then you can write in your review of some of these movies if that's how you want to do it. Joe, does that sound like a good idea, or is that a terrible idea?
I think that's fun. Don't make it this like crazy long thing. Keep it Twitter length. You know how we play with this.
280 characters or less. And if you don't do that, I will only read 280 of your characters.
It just cut off harshly, but you don't start
right off at 280.
Don't start at the beginning. Just like move it around in the middle.
I'll pick whatever 280 I want. If it's the end, I'll pick. Of course, I'm going to pick the ones that's like, but Nick, and then I'll skip a couple lines, like was right, a couple lines all the time. That's what I'll do for you guys. But I love that. If you guys have rebuttals for this, we will do a rebuttal section next week. And chat, thank you for being my correction here. I'm going to probably rely on you guys a lot more from here on out.
Also, wait, one more thing. While we're talking about this, I went to buy this movie on Vudu, which is where we watched it. And it was like, I want to say $10 or something. And for like $15, you could buy the double feature and get Mandy as well. So... Just saying, we don't have to put it on this week's Nick list, and I actually don't think we should. Let's take a break.
Don't watch Mandy. Yeah, at some point.
I think we're unanimous about this. We will watch Mandy at some point, but please God, let's get at least a couple weeks break.
But we do now own it on the company's Vudu account.
That is good to know. Yeah. That is good to know. All right, last up, obviously, we talked about watching The King of Staten Island, which is Pete Davidson and Bill Burr and Marissa Tomei and Steve Buscemi in a movie that is largely autobiographical about Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson's real-life experiences with his father, who was a firefighter who died in 9/11. Of course, this does not broach the topic of 9/11, but it does broach the topic of him losing his father and being lost himself. What do we think of this?
Go for it, Kev.
I love this movie. I enjoyed, I'm not a big fan of Pete. There's something about him. When it comes to his acting, I feel like so many times it feels like he's about to break. Because he's done a bunch of stuff on SNL, right?
He does have a Jimmy Fallon vibe where it's like, are you going to keep the scene? How in the scene are you?
Are you going to be able to make it?
But I think that's part of his charm, just like Jimmy's charm.
I feel like it really, really worked in this movie. Because he plays this character that's just kind of doesn't care about anything, and his acting kind of goes with that, the way he handled a lot of the scenes. And I feel like all the supporting actors around him were 10 out of 10. Bill Burr, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh my God, he was so good. And I don't usually do this, but I was listening to the Joe Rogan Experience for last week's, and it was Bill Burr, and it was
you don't have to be ashamed.
No. I mean, well, it's funny because I really don't like Joe Rogan. I feel like a lot of his opinions are really unnecessarily harsh and intense, and that's why I enjoyed the Bill Burr episode so much, because he keeps knocking him down a peg or two, and they disagree.
Right. Well, they're old friends. It is nice to see them disagree.
And so that's really cool. But Bill Burr's character was just so well done, and to hear him talk about making this movie in that Joe Rogan Experience, and how he's it was the first time I had to really act, where they were like, now open the door and just look at her like you fall in love for the first time. And he's like, how the hell do I do that? But then seeing the scene, it was 2 days later that I watched the movie, and it was he did such a good job. Good for him.
Yeah.
I agree. Joe, what'd you think?
I mean, I'm a sucker for an Apatow movie, really, in all forms. I think it's a really interesting slice of life kind of vibe. I don't really have a particular feeling about Pete Davidson. I don't know a lot of his stuff, so I don't really have a vibe on him. But I feel like this probably wasn't a huge jump in acting for him. It seemed very obviously because it's so autobiographical in nature. It's just he's so blasé kind of about everything. I thought this was I hadn't thought about Marissa Tomei in a role like this in a while, because I just think about her as Aunt May.
Yeah.
And so I'm this is kind of a fun version of her, and especially the relationship that she has with Bill Burr, I think is really good. The fact that
the relationship she has with her sister is my favorite part of this movie. It's so good. Sorry,
one of the Apatow daughters plays the sister, which I thought she was really good. And she goes through this whole thing. I watched some video or read something about how she auditioned for this, and she didn't want to just get it because it's her dad's movie. And I thought she was really good. And I think that she and Pete Davidson had a really the dynamic and how kind of contentious it is based on the differences in growing up and when their dad died was really good. I like that Jimmy Tatro is just randomly in the baseball game.
Love it. He's one of the firefighters. Yeah, he's so funny in it. He's the new rookie that they give shit to. It's so funny.
Yeah, and I was just wait, is that? And so that was just a fun thing. I think it's a good story, and I really liked it. And who doesn't love a movie that has one headlight in the middle where they're all singing it at that party kind of scene?
Oh, are you kidding me? That's absolutely. I agree. I echo all these sentiments. I want to give a shout out to Belle Powley, who plays his sort of on again, off again girlfriend.
Yeah.
I think she was awesome in this.
Totally.
And I actually, at first I was like, oh God, is Pete Davidson going to annoy me in this, because of his style of acting is so sort of standoffish.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they did a really smart thing in this. I think he recognizes that I like how they approached mental illness in this. He recognizes that he's depressed, and he doesn't know how to solve it. And that's sort of like, to me, that normally would have been what the movie would have been about. But instead of that, it's about exploring, him discovering that would have been the climax of the movie. Like, oh my God, I do need help. But he knows he needs help, which I think is more important to show, because like figuring out that you need help is not as essential as once you recognize that, what do you do? Like, how do you move on with your life if you're still suffering depression from a tragedy or for other means, right? And so I should have said mental illness. I meant mental health, by the way. But I think they handle that so well. I think he is self-aware enough to know that he has a problem, but doesn't have the tools because he's too young and didn't have potentially someone to help guide him through this. And that's to solve that problem. And so I think it's so cool when he gets into a support group of the firefighters who can sort of show him a better way of being, and help him get a little bit more discipline and help him understand that like maybe having a goal could potentially be a direction for you to climb out of this depression and start building your life a little bit was cool. That's why, spoilers for the end of the movie. I love the ending because it's not about everyone living happily ever after.
Yeah.
It's just about him sort of getting set on that path to being a better person, to being, happier. And I think they did I was like blown away by this. I was like, damn it, I fucking really like this movie. And who doesn't love Bill Burr screaming the word fuck over and over again with a giant just handlebar mustache?
Oh my gosh, that stash is all over. I also want to give a shout out, like any of the scenes that Pete Davidson had with Bill Burr's kids in the movie was like surprisingly endearing. And I was like not really expecting that, of like, man, like he does have this other side, but it's just like caught up and like I think overwhelmed with the idea of like, how do I even start to do this? And you see that in the scene with after like all the college partying, when he's talking with his sister, of like, she's like, well, you could come here, and he's like, well, no, I could, and what would I do? And I didn't even graduate high school. And she's like, well, you could fix that. And he just kind of like goes in a spiral of like, well, I can't and I can't and I can't. And it's just like interesting to see him process through that throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it's that classic feeling like you're in a place that's so low that you can't dig yourself out of it, and not having that perspective from other people around you to say, hey, you're still young, you still got plenty of time to do with your life whatever you please, but feeling like you're lost. And I think they nailed that too. Sorry, Kev, what's up?
Oh, I was just gonna say he does a good job.
Do you think he can hear us, or do you think
he can? But it was like echoing out of his speakers, and I wanted to do
I can. Sorry about that. I lost the USB there. I was saying he does such a good job of like portraying, especially in that moment where his sister's like, "Oh, this you could be here," and he's just like, he very quickly becomes like, "Look at all the steps that are ahead of me. I'm so lost," and like to fix it. Yeah, it's so overwhelming. Yeah, great movie. I really enjoyed it. Shocked how much I liked it.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say we're putting this as good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Next week we got to decide. We have Twister on the list already. Ready or Not on the list as well, which I've been wanting to watch. This is a good excuse to do it. What do we want to do for a third movie? I've put out Lost Boys, but you guys do not have to indulge in my 80s fantasies of going back to my youth. What do we feel like should be the third? Actually, you know what? Before we decide, let me read the Patreon responses that people have recommended. Just so you guys can get some other options for movies you might want to watch this week. Of course, if you want to write into the show with a rebuttal or just unanimously agree with our opinions on all three of the movies we just did, you go over to patreon.com/kindoffunny, back us at the fan mail tier, and we will sort through those responses and read the best ones out there. If you use the word bananas a couple times, I'll really appreciate it, because it's my new favorite word to describe things that are fucking bananas. Let's see.
You can also write about the stuff that we're talking about next week too, so it's
true.
More cohesive discussion.
That's smart.
I like it more when they just shit on us. Chaotic. That's more Yeah. Let's see. Kono the Destroyer has said, or the Barbarian, excuse me, that Kono the Destroyer. When you back us for 3 months, you get the sequel. But for right now, you're just Conan the Barbarian.
The evolution.
Exactly. Because the Destroyer was terrible, so maybe I won't say that. Anyway, he said, I recommend the hell out of Mr. Iglesias on Netflix for some easy watching. I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias going on, but I am now because of his show. It fills a gap in my heart of sitcoms of Drake and Josh or George Lopez quality. The humor is surprisingly adult, and there isn't constant bad language or anything offensive. The high schoolers and teachers are super likable and relatable characters too. On top of that, you'll constantly get the theme song Iglesias stuck in your head. Check her out, best friends. This is actually something that I saw the preview for, and I was like, I'm never gonna watch this show. And then after the preview, I was like, that's pretty funny. I need to fill the void in my life left over from that 70s show because the season 8 is fucking horrible. So I'm going to stop watching that show.
Wait, I'm sorry. What show did they recommend?
It's called Mr. Iglesias.
Oh, I see.
It features, what is his name?
Gabriel
Fluffy.
Iglesias.
He goes by Fluffy. It's Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah.
He's a stand-up comic. It's super famous. Next up, we got my recommendation for the Nick list is Kung Fu Hustle. I don't know if you guys watch many martial arts films, but this one has Stephen Chow humor. It's entertaining and has great action, a modern Kung Fu classic. I'd like to see how you guys rate it on the Nick list scale. And right now, it's easily streamable on Netflix. Don't know if it's dubbed though or not. It says Mitchell V. Have you guys seen Kung Fu Hustle?
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good recommendation.
Yeah.
Suggestion, and then let's see. Zombie High X23 says suggestion for the Nick list. I brought it up last week, but everyone really needs to watch A Silent Voice on Netflix. It's an emotionally gut-wrenching but beautiful movie and needs to be talked about more often. Thank you and stay safe. That's a really, really good one. Oh, and then Thomas Evans had a great thing to write because I've never seen this film. He said, I just got the 4K Blu-ray for Lawrence of Arabia. I've never seen it before.
Whoa,
heard good
that's
Best Picture nomination or got Best Picture in 1963. Hope that might interest you. Totally a little different departure from what we're normally used to watching.
Yeah, that is a very specific recommendation. I'm gonna throw this out there as a thing of, should we take Twister off because if they're making a sequel, we know that we can push to do Twister in review if we don't do it on this.
Yeah, but also Twister.
And like,
what do you? Well, okay, but if you're gonna make a recommendation, take it off. You got to make a recommendation to put something.
So I have a recommendation that I want to make. A movie I've wanted to see for a long time called Villains.
Okay.
Villains. Give me the pitch on it, Kevin.
So these kids break into this house, right?
Oh, is this the one with Kira Sedgwick and the guy from Burn Notice?
That sounds right.
Yes. Stop. We're watching it.
Awesome.
So, I don't know what this...
Joe, I'm sorry. We're watching it.
Joe? Outvoted?
Joe, here's what the list is going to be: Twister, Ready or Not, and Villains. I feel like that's a great list. At some point, we will watch A Silent Voice.
Wait,
I might just watch that on my own.
Can I saw the poster and I 100% am in.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
All right, there you are.
Cool. Also, Twister.
I will. CJ Rock has also been saying Just Mercy while it's free. Okay, I'm done posting this. I have seen it.
Oh.
That's also an option. I also want to talk about really quick something that I don't think is worth putting on the Nick list, but I would be interested in hearing specifically your guys' opinion just on the production side of thing, is a TV show that just came out with its second season on Netflix. It's called Dating Around. I know that dating stuff, like all those things, aren't really your guys' thing, but the premise of it is that there's one person who goes on the same date with 5 different people.
I watched the first season.
The same restaurant, they're wearing the same thing, and the way that they edit it so it seems like it's one cohesive date night. So really cool.
It is really cool. The way it's the same as the first season, right?
Yeah, they just have a second season that dropped last week.
The way they edit it is really cool because like it's one of those things where you realize, oh, people talk about the same things on the first date. Like, you know?
Yeah. And it's just like it's so smooth.
They can go so dramatically different depending on like what the person wants to convey. You know?
Yeah.
That sounds really cool, actually. It's too bad I have to watch Twister and Ready or Not and Villains next week.
Real quick, for those that don't know, Twister is available on Netflix, Villains available on Hulu, and Ready or Not is available on HBO, according to Just Watch.
Bada bing, bada boom. Ladies
CJ
and
Rock,
gentlemen.
I'm also committing to watch Just Mercy because it's been on my list, and I want to watch it before it leaves everything. So
I'm going to add that to my list as well.
Have a special thing just to talk about that next week.
Well, there it is. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been your screencast for this week. Thank you to my co-hosts, Joey and Kevin. We, of course, will be back. We'll be back tomorrow if you guys want to watch us do Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King Part 1. That's going to be around 11:15 here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. If you're, of course, watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment in the comments below letting us know what you thought of these movies or any other things that might come off the top of your dome by anything we said here, the news stories. And, of course, if you want to back the show on Patreon and potentially be a part of it, go over to patreon.com/kindoffunny. Back us at the $5 or above tier and just start writing. But again, 280 characters, and I get to pick which 280 characters those are. So just be aware. And thank you guys all this week. Thank you to Thomas Evans, Zombie High X23, Mitchell V, and Kono the Barbarian for your suggestions. All great suggestions. And actually, Connor, I think I might start watching Mr. Iglesias because I need another kind of fun. You know, you need like lighthearted shows every once in a while to watch because, man, Color Out of Space can be some fucking nightmares last night. Guys, we love you all. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.